Don't suck on a dead man's dingley. I heard that in 7th grade. It's stuck with me ever since. I don't even know what the fuck it's from. I know it was this kid named Mike that said it, and I thought it was funny. So I took it. You know, I was watching My Lunch Break last night, and, you know, first of all the people that are really stupid and they're like, oh, a submarine? I done a entire videos called submarines. Do you guys watch My Lunch Break and think he should be eating lunch every time? And it's interesting because where are the trolls on his shit? Where is everybody? You know, like I think we all just sort of assume that the trolls are everywhere, yada yada yada. But they're really not. Wally, what's up, Beeve? But you know, I'm watching My Lunch Break, 170,000 subscribers, you know, big videos, blah, blah, blah. And I can't help but think, man, is this guy, I think he might be a J. But it's like, I can't read it. I can't tell. He seems to really believe in angels, and you know, the latest video was about this map that supposedly exists, and it's funny because, like, he calls it a map, but it's not really a map. It's like and it has Jerusalem in the center, and Jerusalem in Jerusalem. And it's like, but it's not a map. It's a piece of paper or a parchment, whatever, that has locations, but it's not like accurate by any stretch of the imagination. You don't know who My Lunch Break is? One of the best Tartaria guys out there, at least from what I can tell. I mean, I don't fucking know a lot of those guys. I don't do that. No, I don't. I watch My Lunch Break videos or whatever, and it makes me want to go live. Like, that's the only thing that comes from it. Lucius Aurelian, you know, these guys are fucking fantastic. I really do think great things, and I get stuff from them when I watch them. But, you know, I've thought this for a while. Like, Tartaria is the best distraction they have right now. At least one of them. Nah, it's not the best, but it's one of them. And really, Tartaria is a great distraction because it's so true. Because it's one of those things that it doesn't matter. Like, you look it up, you look up anything Tartaria, and you're gonna be validated. You know, My Lunch Break does a really good job of looking up buildings, looking up places, whatever it may be, and you know, reading the history. He does what I do, you know, just on a I guess more consistent level. And he has, you know, video editing skills and stuff like that I don't have. Plus, I like the live format. I don't want to make videos that you guys watch after the fact. I like the ability for people to, basically, to keep me in check. That's what I like about the live videos. I like knowing that if I get something wrong, or I say that, you guys can and hopefully will call me out on it. That's you know, that's when before live was available, I used to talk about it with my wife all the time. Like, I wish they would have some sort of thing where I could just basically go live and talk to people and have them communicate back with me. That was my goal. I always used to say the music is the stepping stone to this. By the way, get your free download, www.the-bilderberg-group.com. The link will be in the description. If you need it now, go get it. Go look at a previous video. You'll see it. No. Yes, I am a cook. Like, submarines, like, it's just one of these things where it's like, more than anything, ask yourself why you believe submarines are real. That's pretty simple. Okay. Ask yourself why you believe any of the things that you believe. Do you believe it because you know it, you've experienced it? Without a shadow of a doubt, you can say this is what it is for sure, for true, because, you know, you just know. Is that how that works? Yeah, somebody crushed that shit in between me picking up my kids yesterday. Like, it's really strange, you know? It's really strange to look at the world that way, to like look at everything. Why do you believe in Jesus? Do you have a reason to believe in Jesus other than you were told to from a very young age, you were sort of bullied into it, and your family will be mad at you if you say you don't believe it? Do you have any other reason to believe in it? Literally, I mean, is there anything that you've experienced that you can say, oh, that was fucking God, no doubt about it. Can't be anything else. It had to be God. Now that I think about it, I've never actually seen a submarine before. You haven't. Oh, go. What's going on? You've seen submarines. You've seen boats in docks, at the dock. And you've seen videos, but you've never seen a submarine swimming through the water and shit. Oh, look. Somebody is now typing in another language because that's smart. It's all brainwashing. You know, I mean, it's for all those people that are still on the round earth. Like, it's the same mentality. You literally have no reason to believe it. And if you think about it, what you're told kind of doesn't make any sense. But you believe it out of fear of being ostracized, out of bully, you know, out of getting paid. You got to get your paycheck, which is your grades. You know, when you're a kid, your paycheck is your grades. You got to have a good paycheck so that you can get the good grades so that your mom doesn't take away your shit. You literally have no incentive to ever question things. They don't tell you to do that. The system doesn't say, we're going to present you with a narrative. Do your best to debunk that narrative because in doing so, it'll prove the narrative true. I've worked on a submarine base. Sure you have. Sure you have. People have to ask themselves. So these submarine people, they've been given clearance to come on YouTube and start talking about their experience like that? No. Yeah, I'm telling kids to be free thinkers for sure. Not to be free thinkers for sure. For sure. You know? And even if, let's just say you worked at a place that you think submarines were. That doesn't mean you know, like, the only people that have to know the truth about something are the people at the very top. But as far as you working at a submarine, you worked at a place where they made boats. You definitely, if you worked there, you didn't see submarines 800 meters below the surface, blah, blah, blah. It's all just stupid. They actually do. Always been taught to question why something's done a certain... No, you're not. That's not at all what it is. School is about regurgitation. You regurgitate what you're told. Sure, question how it works or whatever, but don't question the authority. Yep, I must be on crack. That's what it is. But yes, I have been cancerous. You have been cancerous? I rode on a submarine to your mom's house. There you go. That's at least more believable than what you're saying. At least this dude's attempting. He wants to go fuck a dead chick. That says a lot about him, but who cares? So what's always interesting to me is how I sit here and I talk about submarines and people will be like, duh, 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 duh. But if I say, hey, let's switch that up and let's talk about the genocide that's taking place right now, or the J conspiracy theory that rules the world, immediately you shut down. I'm not spreading anything. I've never driven a submarine, but there's 5 bases around England, around New England. They produce 750 I don't even know them. Just for the pest company I work for. I'm not trying. They produce money. What are you talking about? Like it's silly because again, I guess my wife always tells me that I have to be more specific. Yes, they have boats that the majority of the boat can go under the surface of the water. They might even have boats that can go 10, 20 feet down. They do not have nuclear-powered submarines that can go 300 meters below the water surface and swim around like a whale. It's when you can... Yeah. When will that... Yeah, when will that... Again, look at this shit. Look at this shit. Look at how weird it is. Right? Why would people be so concerned with whether or not I believe in submarines? But when it comes to the genocide of an entire population, when it comes to us being slaves, when it comes to us mutilating our children, when it comes to... you just shut down. I don't get it. Ironside was an early submarine and also a ship. Yeah, because that's a thing. You have both. It's weird you're reading every comment like you're being attacked. Yep, that's what's happening. Get help! I'm supposed to get help. I need help! So, going live and talking about things, what else am I supposed to do? It's delusion not believing it. Notice how nobody's actually made a reasonable point? I love this shit, man. They don't make any reason. Of course they are. Well, yeah, they are. Well, yeah, that's delusional. Really? And the thing about submarines is everybody talks about them like they know about them. Like just last week, they did a book report on submarines. So go ahead and ask me because I'm well versed. You don't know shit. You don't know shit. If I tell you guys the first working submarine is supposedly from 1620, how many of you are going to believe that? And of course, the powers that be at the time didn't see the value in having a vessel that can travel underwater. It's fucking stupid. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. Look at the dumb shit. I don't care if you agree with some of the things I say. I want to hear about the things you disagree with and why. How? I know you guys think when I say I want to hear what you disagree with, you think going, oh, well, submarines are real. That's somehow doing it. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you to make actual points. Need to protect the kids. Oh, yes. Not from the heterosexual machine that has been pushing sex on kids since they were little. And you know, the Jays that run Hollywood and all the pedo, you know, organizations around the country. Not that kind of protect the kids. We need to protect the kids from gays on TV. Why would people fake submarines? For the same reason they fake everything else. Control. It's about control. We're supposed to believe that our masters have control of the land, the sea, the air, underwater, under the ground. You know, we have a space force and all this. They as long as you believe the monster is too big to be defeated, you won't fight the monster. So they cover all of their tracks. And see, that's just it. Like, see how you ask a question and then I answer the question? I address the thing you say and then, you know, that's what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to debunk what I'm saying the way I debunk what you say. Oh. What are you going to what you gone tell me next? Australia is a hologram. I don't think Australia is where you think it is. I don't think Australia is what you think it is. I can tell you this. During the summertime, here in Michigan, the sun doesn't, it doesn't completely get dark until like 10 o'clock. It's kind of crazy. So when I go live at 9:30, and you can still see the sun above the horizon, and yet for some reason in Florida, it's dark. Directly below us, it's dark. Closer to the equator, it's dark. And yet, if I'm live at 9:30, whatever at night, Australia is between 10 and 12 and a half hours ahead of us. So that means it's between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. If it's 9:30, then it's 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Which means it's daytime there, right? It's morning, the sun is out. How can I in Michigan, say my head is the earth, say I'm here in Michigan, how can I see the same sun that the people on the back of my head in Australia can see at the same time? If you were to drill through the earth, I wouldn't end up in China, I'd end up in Australia, supposedly. Or somewhere in the water. How come I can see the sun at the same time that people in Australia can? Doesn't that seem off? I've seen a submarine submerge, though. You've seen a submarine go underwater. Maybe.
How far under?
The thing that I can always tell people, the best thing I can tell you about submarines is go look. Go find me the video that shows submarines in action. There's plenty of videos that show submarines where the top is sticking out of the water and they're riding on the boat as it's, sticking out of the water. There's plenty of videos that show the inside of submarines where people can walk around without feeling any movement whatsoever. I don't know if you've ever been on a plane, a boat, a train, anything that's moving in a car. The slightest movements of the car, of the vehicle, of the whatever you're traversing in, you can feel it. In a submarine, nope. They can crash through ice and nobody moves. They just stand there, do. They can draw, they can do whatever. They're in a submarine. But go find accurate footage of a submarine underwater. You'll see two videos. There's one video that's clearly a model. It's a camera on the bottom of a tank or something, and this submarine travels past it several times. But even then, that submarine is only, it's so close to the surface that you can see the reflection of the submarine on the water. There's that one, and then there's a video of some scuba divers who had a submarine pass beneath them, supposedly. That's it. And then there's the video. There's this one video where it's like, submarine dives like a whale. That's what the title is. So you go look at it, and you see this submarine seemingly struggling to go down, shooting up all this water, air and water. Like, if you're supposed to be some covert blah, 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 the fact that it can't go down without shooting out a bunch of air and water is kind of, unproductive, I would imagine. That's letting you know the location. And the video cuts several times. And then eventually you see the submarine sticking out of the water like a little bit, but that's the end of it. They don't show you submarine go way down and shit. And then if you watch submarines come back up out of the water, the only time you ever see it is when it looks like somebody was holding a 2-liter or something underwater, and they let it go, and it goes, and it pops up, and it like does like that, pops up. That's not what happens. That's not how that's again, that's not an effective tool. You would assume a submarine would come out of the water, go down. You would assume it's like that. But you'd be wrong. And that's the thing about all of this, right? Again, you have all of these fucking people who act like, you know, they have stocks and bonds, and they have investments in submarines. And they're like, no. They're not actually saying anything. There's no actual argument, oh, well, this is how it works and this and that. Even the notion of ballast tanks, that shit's stupid. If you've ever had an empty 2-liter at the beach, you'll know it's like almost impossible to sink that fucking thing. It's hard to do. A little tiny 2-liter, it's hard to sink it, to take it underwater. And the deeper you go, the more difficult it is. Even if you put water in it, it's still, you know, if you fill the ballast tanks, it's still difficult. As long as there's air and it's got a cap on it, it's still difficult to make it go underwater. And then the whole concept of how they breathe, come on. That they're using electrolysis. So they distill the seawater, the ocean water, they desalinate the seawater, taking the salt out. Then they run an electrical current through the fresh water that they now have, which separates the oxygen molecules from the hydrogen from the water, and then they collect all those oxygen molecules. So I wonder, what is left if you take the O out of H2O? Then what are you left with? You're just left with hydrogen? Is it liquid hydrogen? How does that work? Water's one of those things where we have the recipe for it, but we can't make it. If water is simply 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, then why can't you pump a room that's been, you know, a vacuum room with nothing in it? You pump it with 1 part oxygen and 2 parts hydrogen, you're going to have a whole bunch of water, right? Isn't that how that works? But the thing is, like, again, all of the people talking are literally speaking from, like, knee-jerk reaction, you know, parents. You haven't looked up submarines. You know nothing about Cornelius Drebbel, the man who could make it thunder and lightning on command. Yeah, that makes sense. You know nothing about a lot of this stuff, and yet you arrogantly sit here and argue with me like you were fucking there. You've done all the history. Go watch the first 9 parts of this series, and you should be able to just left and right be debunking me and making me look stupid, and yet it still doesn't happen. You would think, after all this time, there would have been a few people that have gone on the first 9 parts and said something and talked about it. You're wrong about this. You're wrong about that. Never do. You have to bond the molecules to each other, not just set things next to each other. Oh yeah, what's the bonding process? How do you bond the molecules? I know nothing about submarines. Let's move on. It's true. It's true. And that's why they love when I talk about this, because of that exact reason. Most people don't know. And as long as we're talking about submarines, we're not talking about the J's. Even though it's a J that invented it, the nuclear submarine was invented by a J. The government needed nuclear submarines, so the goofy J whose whole story doesn't make sense, the J who converted to Protestant, because you hear about that all the time, right? Seriously, how many used to be J's that are now Protestant have you met in your life, Chubb? None? Not -1? Right, like it's so fucking stupid. You need an insane amount of electricity for that. It's partly the reason why when it thunder and lightnings, The clouds are the molecules once it gets blasted by lightning and it turns to water. Oh my God. Do you know how stupid you sound? But see, you're not like speaking from this educated point of view. You're speaking from this like guy has to be wrong, so I'm just gonna say whatever dumb shit I can. He thinks subs are real because he can't get any. What? We actually do have Space Force. Right. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Have you seen? You know, you be all that you can be in the Army. Have you seen Space Force commercials? Have you met a lot of Space Force people? Have you heard anything about the Space Force whatsoever? No. You need a snack. You should. If you need a snack, then you take a snack, buddy. Also, you keep saying the government as if there aren't... Do I say the government or do I say the system? See, I know stupid people are going to try to trip me up by shit like that. So I purposefully say the system the majority of the time. Now, I know a lot of you believe in the government, but I'm always talking about the system, right? Bro, I was stationed on a sub in the Navy. You are insane. That's capital letters. Yep. I know the one thing I know for sure is that military people have the clearance to come on to YouTube and other live videos and shit and talk about their experience. And I also know that military people always tell the truth, especially to non-military people. Like it's fucking stupid. Tell us about Rickover, submarine guy. Will anyone go to your funeral one day, or will you be alone till the end? Yep. I will be alone at my own funeral. Jesus, every platform is data collection asset. Exactly. Your clearance doesn't stop you from talking about your experience on a submarine. Yeah, kind of would. But more than anything, if you think that military people tell the truth, you're fucking stupid. I don't know what to tell you. Alone. Oh, and say, yep. It's such a sad life that I go live and people like you will watch me day after day after day for hours because I'm so awful. You could literally be doing anything else in the entire world. You could be watching porn. You're on your phone. You could be watching porn. You could be learning something. You could be learning about submarines. And yet instead, you come here so you can talk shit. Oh, man. Stupid shit, too. Not like it's viable, reasonable shit. It's just stupid. You know, and again, this is all the stuff they want us talking about. They love doing that shit. Right? Yep, my ignorance is, yep, that's what it is. Yep. The guy that thinks we should cut off Israel and the J conspiracy that controls our lives, kill all the pedos. Yep, I'm so ignorant. Look at how ignorant I am. Bet you believe in Jesus. Submarines are real. Ever seen one? No, they haven't. They have never seen anything. And they're not smart enough to think about it. Do you honestly think we can traverse through the fucking water? Do you know how heavy water is? You ever been in a really deep pool, like a 15-foot deep pool or whatever, and swam down to the bottom and felt like your head was going to explode or implode, whatever? The idea that they have machines that can go up and down in the water and what, just magically adjust the pressure on the inside to match the outside pressure so that the thing doesn't implode or explode. Yeah, that's totally real. That's called science. Let's talk about Albert Pike and his plans for World War III. How much do you know about Pike? You know, for all we know, Pike wasn't real. Or if he was, the narrative isn't. But yeah, Pike laid it all out. But so much of that shit, like, I just don't care. It's dumb. I don't understand. Right. Isn't it amazing how many submarine experts we have on here today? Isn't that amazing? So many experts on submarines that desperately want to keep me talking about submarines, and no, we shouldn't talk about the genocide. We shouldn't talk about killing pedos. We shouldn't talk about the J conspiracy to control. We shouldn't talk about those things, right? Whatever you smoking, I think you're smoking too much, yeah. Currently watching from a submarine. Like, that's how stupid these people are. Do you know how they communicate with submarines? Yeah, by a facility in Wisconsin. Yeah, a facility in Wisconsin. It bounces the communications off the ionosphere, and then it goes deep down into the water. They can go as 30 meters, 30, 40 meters deep. Like, you're just stupid if you don't think about these things. How the fuck would they be able to communicate with anyone on a submarine? They're deep down in the ocean somewhere. What is the signal? How is that communication signal being transferred from one place to the other? The Feldmans. Alan, the Feldmans. Everywhere you look, they're putting it in your face. You just don't see it. Very low frequency penetrates water. Yeah, 40 meters. So they say. The thing about this is, like, I just find it strange. It's like with Trump supporters, right? Trump supporters think every other candidate, every other president, everything with government is corrupt, screwed up. They can see it. They call it out left and right. But then when it comes to Trump, they're like, no, but he's a good guy.
Okay, lie down.
You know, like it's just crazy the things people choose to believe. You know, the thing that's always interesting to me is people never do this back to me. They never present me with situations, and I can then answer for them. But if you're willing to believe in Jesus, God, whatever, then of course you're willing to believe in submarines. The J conspiracy and Albert Pike's plan kind of go hand in hand. Why wouldn't you want to talk about it? Because Albert Pike is past. When we talk about characters from the past, we're literally only talking about what they give us. And it really doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, when you compare it to what's going on now, you know, I mean, he's backing on integration. Trump is an idiot. Trump does what he's told. Why don't people get that? He is just a fucking clown who does what he's told. Oh, look, fuck Israel. Fuck you, piece of shit Israel supporters. That flag is like the pedo flag. You start flying that flag, you're like, look at me, I'm a pedo. Like, that's what you're doing. So go right ahead. Go right the fuck ahead. Acknowledge to the world that you're a pedo. It's crazy. So subs aren't real. R-E... Oh, I thought it said R-E-E. What are the sailors on subs doing when they go underwater? The same thing the astronauts are doing when they go to space. You know, like Neil deGrasse Tyson's biggest argument, his like microphone drop argument was like, look, you could calculate, based off of the fuel that they used, where they went. Where else would they go with all that fuel? That's his argument. It's just insane. You're such an expert in everything, but look at you living in your delusions. Yep. I'm such an expert on everything. I sit here and I claim to be an expert on everything, don't I?
Yeah.
But see, this is again when you ask a kid or someone stupid, have you heard about this? Do you know about this? They go, "Yeah, I have, but I just want to see what you know." They say shit like that because they don't really know. And that's what you see time and time again with these fucking clowns. The thing is, if I'm wrong about anything, instead of all the crybaby name calling and the bullshit about, I said it before, I can't say all that shit, just tell me what I'm getting wrong. Tell me what and how I'm getting it wrong. Why is that so difficult for people? I just don't understand this guy refutes hard evidence, right? What hard evidence has been presented? Oh, I think I'll trust the astrophysicist. Yep, of course will. The astrophysicist, the guy that sits has a really cushy job, working at a place doing who knows what all day, coming up with pretty pictures and shit. Gotcha. I mean, it's just stupid. It's just fucking stupid. And all these people on here that acknowledge themselves to be Jays, understand these are baby penis cutters and suckers. These people think the women's vagina is the worst thing in the world. These people are slave owners and genocide pushers. There's a movie that you guys should all watch, and I've been including it lately. But it's called Hollywoodism. How the Jews invented Hollywood. And throughout the film, they tell you about how they control everything. And how they created our American dream to be theirs. And like, it's just tons and tons of shit that if I say it out loud, then everybody gets mad, right? And you can't say that, you're a conspiracy theorist, yada, yada, yada. But if I'm reading you or I'm showing you a video they make, then what do you say? Bro, act like we need research summaries to disprove his illusions. Yep, that's what it is. That's what it is. God, it's so fucking crazy how stupid these people are. I mean, I can't wrap my head around it. Like, I would be embarrassed to be that stupid. If somebody's making arguments that I disagree with, I don't just make fun of them. I don't just, talk about how, I'm going to address your arguments. Just like I do on here. At least to some degree. It starts to get where it's just going too fucking much, but everybody on the fence, watching this on the fence, look at the comments. Understand that there are a bunch of negative fucking people on here. And we'll go into it in a minute, but these people are here simply to talk shit. So if you're here simply to talk shit, wouldn't the most successful, wouldn't the best way to do it be to debunk and make what I'm saying look stupid? Like, I just don't understand I don't understand how it can be anything other than A, really stupid people, and B, Team Jorge. Now, for those that don't know, Team Jorge is the smoking gun. Think about how many times I've looked up Team Jorge. You'd think it would pop up when you would think. So Team Jorge is the name of an outfit of Israeli contractors specialized in the use of malign cyber activities, including hacking, sabotage, and bot farm-run social media disinformation campaigns to manipulate the outcomes of elections. Now, if you go, well, yeah, they're there to do election, blah, blah, blah. If they can fuck with election level stuff, random dude's YouTube page is easy.
Reclaiming wood from old buildings is only one of the ways Jeff sources material. In recent years, he's also started
One of the organization's primary tools is a software package called Advanced Impact Media Solutions, or AIMS. The group was exposed in February, not February, February, look how it's spelled, 2023, after an award-winning undercover operation by journalists from Israel and France as part of a consortium of investigative journalists coordinated by Forbidden Stories. The organization has been active since at least 2015. The head of the thing, Tal Hanen, says they've been doing it for over 2 decades. But on paper, they can only track this back to 2015, and boasts of having manipulated 33 presidential elections worldwide, many of them in Africa, and in 27 cases with successful results. Their activities were revealed following a sting operation in Tel Aviv, carried out by undercover journalists, blah, 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 who posed as prospective clients and filmed their interactions with Tal Hanan, Talhanan, the group's leader and former Israeli Special Forces operative, in which he explained the inner workings of the organization. Tal Hanan used the pseudonym Jorge when working with the hacking and disinformation group, which inspired the name Team Jorge. Because again, if I say to you, Jorge did it, how many of you are going to be like, oh, that was a J, wasn't it? He was probably Israeli. How many guesses do you think it would take before you actually guessed Israeli off of Jorge? Just the name in itself is deception. And see, this is what I wish more than anything, is that I wish they'd put me on TV with a panel of experts. And I could make my claims and then they would debunk them and make them look stupid. Like, you would think, like the comments, you would hear what I'm saying and then be like, oh, no, you're wrong about that. Jorge is Israeli. There's lots of Israelis named Jorge. And if I'm wrong, you don't, because you're stupid. I mean, and again, most of these profiles are bots. They're bots. This is I'm literally proving it to you. Like, people can claim I'm this, that, and the other, but they don't have any proof. This is undoubtable, undeniable, 100% proof. They can manipulate everything. They manipulate everything social media, and this is just one. This is just one Israeli Black Ops organization. It wasn't even disbanded. It was just exposed. That's all. Still in operation. And you have to wonder, like, how many of these do they have? According to Tal Hanan, the group's leader, Team Jorge has existed for more than 2 decades and has been engaged in propaganda and disinformation activities in more than 30 countries. You guys gonna try to address this? You guys gonna tell me what I'm wrong about? However, its first documented activity dates back to 2015. Their services have been available to government intelligence agencies, political campaigns, and private companies that wish to covertly manipulate public opinion. You guys paying attention here? You guys seeing this, right? Tell me what I'm wrong about. One of the organization's primary tools is a software package called Advanced Impact Media Solutions, or AIMS. The software automates centralized control of thousands of fake social media profiles on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Telegram, TikTok, and others, like YouTube. A number of these accounts also have Bitcoin wallets. The group also employs hacking techniques to brute force accounts of potential victims. So, when you look at what's happening in my comments, and you look at how it's a bunch of stupidity, because I promise you, the Jays are stupid. They don't run the show because they're smarter than us. They know they're not smarter than us. We invent everything. We create everything. They just steal it. But make this, tell me how I'm wrong. I don't understand how this isn't smoking gun kind of holy shit. Like, I get that you might be ignorant. You're supposed to be ignorant. You're supposed to be stupid. They want us stupid and compliant. You're not supposed to know about this shit. And if you do, well, then here's your nice. This is the best way they could present it. Think about it like that. They have to. There's a need for it because there's the whole Team Jorge exposition and the whole everything that was involved in it. So this is their way of somehow trying to get ahead of it by thinking they're putting out the best information they can. It's like when Israel says the UN can't investigate Israel because that demonizes Israel. Well, if you weren't doing horrible shit, nobody could demonize you. Like me, I go live every day to an open audience of whoever wants to be here. and I'm never shaken. I never even stumble because I'm right and I'm telling the truth. And I have nothing I don't do anything that I worry gets exposed or something like that. If you're a good guy, then you don't care if people look into your good guy shit. This is pointless. Yeah. You're going to find it's very pointless to try to do your typical brute force, bully tactic bullshit. Because all you're going to do is make yourself look bad and make me look better. But okay, let's do it. And think about it. Like, what American, red-blooded American, is going to hear a story about how Israel manipulates our social media and not give a shit? Oh, that's pointless. They literally, the whole thing about Russia and the 2016 election and blah, they tell you Russia interfered with the elections. They don't tell you how. They don't give you any evidence. And you believe it. But yet the evidence is here. This is 100% undeniable evidence. And people are like, no, I don't understand. It's really shocking. It's really shocking how proudly ignorant they have you. I assume you don't know about Team Jorge, because if you did, you'd be screaming, hey, everybody, look at this. Israel is manipulating. Do you guys remember back in like 2016 or 17? When 3 listening devices were found stationed, triangulated around the White House so that they could intercept any ingoing and outgoing communications. And it was found that they were Israeli devices, Israeli listening devices. And as soon as it was found that they were Israeli listening devices, well, that story went away. Let's see if we can find it. Israeli listening devices found outside White House. Oh, it's 2019. All right. Politico. The U.S. government concluded within the past 2 years that Israel was most likely behind the placement of cell phone surveillance devices that were found near the White House and other sensitive locations around Washington, according to 3 former senior U.S. officials with knowledge of the matter, of course. But unlike most other occasions when flagrant incidents of foreign spying have been discovered on American soil, the Trump administration did not rebuke the Israeli government, and there was no consequences for Israel's behavior, one of the former officials says. The miniature surveillance devices colloquially colloquially known as stingrays, mimic regular cell phone towers to fool cell phones into giving them their locations and identity information. Formerly called International Mobile Subscriber Identity Catchers, or IMSI catchers, they also capture the contents of phone calls and data use.
We really need drastic statements right now. And there's still
If Israel's the good guy, why would they be using these covert spy techniques on us?
my part to help.
That seems different, don't you think?
And
The devices were likely intended to spy on President Dickhead Douchebag Trump, one of the former officials said, as well as his top aides and closest associates, though it's not clear whether the Israeli efforts were successful. Nor do we know how long those devices had been there.
this is a fantasy
Those could easily go back much further than that. Trump is reputed to be lax in observing White House security protocols. Politico reported in May 2018 that the president often used an insufficiently secured cell phone to communicate with friends and confidants. The New York Times subsequently reported in October 2018 that Chinese spies are often listening to Trump's cell phone calls, prompting the president to slam the story as so incorrect. I do not have time here to correct. Oh, so it's so incorrect that he doesn't have time to correct it. Well, what else does he have to do? That's like the fucking trolls that say, "Oh, I've said stuff before." Well, if you said it before and I didn't see it, say it again. Why wouldn't you just say it again? What's the issue? Think about this. Look at all these fucking people on here, right? Look at these. Like, are these Americans? What Americans hear example after example of how the Jays control everything. Israel controls our American life. We literally give Israel $3.8 billion a year to murder people. And that $3.8 billion, once it transfers into Israeli money, shekels, turns into about 15 billion shekels. And that's just from us. Canada gives them about $2 billion a year. Australia gives them $1.2 billion a year. And the thing is, this is just the cash that they get. This isn't all the military, all the military stuff they get. This isn't the yearly payment. This isn't the yearly, Abraham Accords bullshit, where we have to yearly pay these countries to play nice with Israel. It doesn't include all that. It's just the cash that we give them. By then, as part of tests by the federal government, officials at the Department of Homeland Security had already discovered evidence of the surveillance devices around the nation's capital, but weren't able to attribute the devices to specific entities. The officials shared their findings with relevant federal agencies. According to a letter, a top Department of Homeland Security official, Christopher Krebs, wrote in May 2018 to Senator Ron Wyden. I wonder if those are dual Israeli citizens. They figured it out. And they're not just the Steinberg Goldstein mans anymore. You have names like Chuck Schumer. You'd think that was kind of a German name, wouldn't you? You have, like there's names like Shapiro. Shapiro, that sounds Italian or some shit, right? Nope. They're hiding everywhere. Based on a detailed forensic analysis, the FBI and other agencies working on the case felt confident that Israeli agents had placed the devices. Now, if it wasn't Israel, imagine how much more confident they would be and how much louder they would be. If it was China. Imagine how much bigotry and insanity would be associated. The Chinese, the Chinese, the Chinese. They even brought the Chinese up in this article about Israel, because that's just what they do. But it's strange because, again, it's like there are times when I let myself sort of forget. You know, I forget that, like, how obsessed with me and terrified of me Israel and the Jays are. Because I go, like, how do random, regular people who believe in God and Jesus hear this shit? You know, all you America firsties. How do you hear this stuff and still just remain ignorant? You know, how do you remain stupid if when it's presented to you? Again, if I'm not, I mean, I've seen shit like when Christy Moreno gets all upset and starts yelling, but even yelling at the troll. So I don't see the purpose of trolling. I must be too old or something. But trolling seems like some embarrassing kind of like pussy shit, right? You have a problem with someone, so you hide your identity and talk shit. But you don't tell them what the problem is. You just talk shit. You try to get them in trouble. Like, what kind of weirdo pussy shit is it? I make it so easy sitting here talking about Israel spying on the United States, about genocide, about pedos. That makes it easy. And see, again, if you were really just a douchebag out there trying to fuck with shit, why wouldn't, if you really had to troll, and that was your thing, why wouldn't you be trolling like Roop Raj and, you know, newscasters and government officials and shit like that, trying to get them to, you know, point out to them that they must be pedo supporters and why aren't they doing, like, if you're gonna troll, why not make it fucking valuable? I mean, if you're not Israeli bots, Team Jorge, like I read to you guys earlier. Based on a detailed forensic analysis, according to the former officials, several of whom served in top intelligence and national security positions. That analyst, one of the former officials said, or that analysis, one of the former officials said, is typically led by the FBI's counterintelligence division and involves examining the devices so that they tell you a little more about their history, where the parts and pieces come from, how old they are, who had access to them, and that will help you get what the origins are. Hey, speaking of which, that story about Israel somehow intercepting cell phones and pagers and shit in the manufacturing process and then putting explosive devices in them, you know, directly assaulting civilians. Why did that story disappear? All the J's, right? Because you're pieces of shit. Of course you want to acknowledge yourself. Please do. Please acknowledge who the pedos are. If you're a pedo, put J in the comments, right? And what you're seeing is like you see these crybaby J's all over the place. Bitch asses like Michael Rappaport, Jerry Seinfeld, John Lovitz. When they can spout their hate without any sort of repercussions or anybody, they'll do it. Michael Rappaport is a piece of shit, but he would never actually get into a debate with me because what could he say? These Jays, they're not going to deny anything I'm saying. What they're trying to do is bully me into quitting, which will never happen. But they're trying to make anybody that's watching that's like, hey, this guy's starting to make sense. They're trying to make you think like bad of yourself for watching me. If you start to think that the crazy guy is making sense, well, then you must be fucked up. But you would think, like, if you've ever experienced Jays in your life, You know they're quick to say, like, if you talk to a J, within about 5 minutes of talking to them, they're going to bring it up. Well, as a J, I think the blah, blah, blah. And they always do. And if you say something they don't like, they're quick to say something. But as soon as you override them and you show them you're not your average goyim, just stupid, that you're probably smarter than they are, they totally shut down. You know? They totally shut down. Their one and only real argument is, oh, well, it's in the Bible. The Bible says so. Once you say, yeah, but I don't believe that shit, especially since you guys wrote it, obviously. That's why your book's in the front. The Old Testament's in the front of the Bible to show you who the owner is. If you got a job at Burger King, and every time you opened up a Burger King, pamphlet or something like that, it was all about the history of McDonald's and how great Big Macs were, you'd probably start thinking McDonald's had more to do with Burger King than you originally thought. But think about it, right? Think about how, like, these guys are acknowledging that they're Jays. So then you would think, okay, you guys actually have firsthand information on this. Why don't you intelligently debunk this guy? Instead of proving that you're fucking ignorant, ass clowns, prove that he's wrong. Make him look bad. You would think, but instead, that's how stupid they are. That's what I keep trying to tell you. They're not in charge because of their intelligence. It's because of their ruthlessness. It's because of their willingness to starve out women and children for no reason whatsoever, just to do so. It's the people that are willing to stand around and watch as a moil puts their kid's penis in their mouth.
Is you're saying that this is...
The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. By Albert Einstein.
You were just saying that's weird.
Yeah. For these types of investigations, the Bureau often leans on the National Security Agency, and sometimes the CIA, DHS, and the Secret Service played a supporting role in this specific investigation. It was pretty clear that the Israelis were responsible, said a former senior intelligence official. An Israeli embassy spokesperson, Elad Strohmeyer, denied that Israel placed the devices and said, "These allegations are absolute nonsense. Israel doesn't conduct espionage operations in the United States, period." That in itself is just the stupidity I'm talking about. Like this is just, they don't tell you that they don't deny things and tell you why and blah. They just tell you, no, this is it. Don't talk about it. That's absurd. That's delusional. Don't talk about it. We don't do that. Nuh-uh. We don't spy on you guys. Nope, never. Period. Never. And if it wasn't Israel, then the story would have kept going. If it was China, we'd still be talking about it. I wouldn't be talking about something you forgot about. But these are also the people that can, apparently, if one of them is killed, they can have a funeral within hours. That is the biggest, like, of all the little smoking gun pieces out there. How many of you know about the Samantha Woll story? Samantha Woll, W-O-L-L. If I said it was W-O-L-L, would you assume that's a J? No. She was a community leader here in Detroit. Her boyfriend fucking killed her on October 21st, 2023. 3 weeks after the false flag bullshit October 7th, where no Israelis were killed and no Israelis were taken hostage. And it's easily provable. Like, we can easily get into it. But this is a kind of a piece of it, actually. Because initially, the J media was trying to tell us, oh, this might have, because a J was killed. It just goes to show you how fucking controlled it is. When they don't die from natural causes, it's a national issue. It's a big deal. And so this chick was found dead at like 6:30 in the morning out on her front lawn where she had clearly, tried to get out. She had been stabbed in the neck and face a bunch of times. And she had been in a wedding the night before. And apparently this black dude, Michael Jackson Bolanos, was out, looking for shit to steal that night, breaking into cars and shit, and came across the body and was like, oh shit, white woman, I got to get the fuck out of here. I want nothing to do with this. Her front door was open. He could have went in her house and taken a bunch of shit, but he didn't. And so initially, it's an unsolved murder. They don't really know what's going on. Eventually, her boyfriend calls the police and confesses that he did kill her, or he thinks he might have killed her. He doesn't remember, but he thinks he might have. And so he gets arrested, but then he gets let go and all the everything dropped. And he's also given immunity so he can testify at her trial. And the excuse was, well, that he had taken a double dose of his psych meds and hit his vape pen 4 times, which made him then call the police and tell them that he thought he killed his girlfriend. And that's the viable story, right? Well, and of course, the prosecution wants to go after this shit, blah, blah, blah. The judge, in a sort of unprecedented way, says that the charges against Michael Jackson Bolanos aren't good enough. And throws in there a bunch of hate crime, because a Jay was killed. And anytime a Jay's killed, it's immediately a hate crime. It's a hate crime. Anytime anything has to do with them. Have you noticed that? Dylan Roof can go into a black church and shoot up a bunch of black people while having a fucking Facebook page full of Confederate flags where he talks bad about black people, blah, blah, blah. He gets bought Burger King, and we're still, is that a hate crime? Well, we're not really sure. We don't want to rush to judge and label something a hate crime instead of a love crime or a like crime. Because hate crimes are, it's just so stupid. But like all this unprecedented shit, all this, they tried everything they could to stick Michael Jackson Bolanos with this narrative. And at the end of the day, they couldn't. The evidence was just too flimsy. And so what they ended up giving him was 18 months to 25 years for lying to police. You ever heard of somebody getting 18 months to 25 years for lying to police? Are you fucking serious? Do you know how crazy that is? It's almost as crazy as she was found dead 6:30 a.m. October 21st. The morning newspapers from October 22nd talk about how beautiful her funeral that 1,000 people attended was. So these newspapers come out roughly 24 hours after she was found dead. And yet, I guess there was no investigation. There was nobody, no autopsy. I don't know. I don't know how somebody can be found dead in an unsolved murder. And at some point, we don't actually know when, but at some point within a few hours, a funeral is had. This is a high-ranking member of the community. You would think people from all over would want to come to the funeral. Family from Israel, shit like that. If anybody can tell me how you can have a funeral for someone within hours of them being killed in an unsolved murder, if you can tell me how you can have a funeral for somebody hours after they're killed regardless, I'd love to hear it. A large funeral, large, beautiful, opulent funeral that over 1,000 people attended. I mean, you want to talk about fucking stupid? Understand, everybody that acknowledges themselves to be a troll here is probably a pedophile. A J pedophile. And they're not going to deny it. They can't. Just like they can't deny anything I'm saying. Right? Understand what's going on here. Understand what is going on here. You cannot have a funeral for someone within hours of them being killed in an unsolved crime. There has to be an autopsy. There has to be, like, first of all, there were probably other autopsies scheduled for that morning. There were probably other funerals scheduled for that morning. So to think that everybody can just, that this J just jumps the line because she's J, that's pretty fucking stupid. And that goes back to October 7th, where Israel claims that around 1,100 people in Israel were killed. Now, I can't necessarily blame you if you've only been sort of paying attention to this since October 7th. But if you've been paying attention for longer than that, you know that the Israelis don't refer to themselves as people in Israel. The people in Israel are not Israelis, are not Jays. Whenever they refer to people in Israel, it's like, the people that are in our place. So when they claim that they killed, or that around, because they still don't give you an actual number, around 1,100 of them were, around 1,100 people were killed in Israel, that's them telling you like a half-truth, right? Because in those things are crazy. And oh shit. Sorry, I got distracted by the fish. The stonefish. Understand that if you were to do what I did, which you didn't, but if you would have on November 7th of 2023, like I did, went to the Wikipedia page, the Israel Hamas War 2023 Wikipedia page, and you were to go back to the first edit. It's funny how they've changed up their structure and their protocol since then, so you can't necessarily do this anymore. It's a lot more difficult. But if you were to go back to the first edit, and they probably changed it up because of this, right? The first edit was made at 6:22 a.m. October 27th local time, or October 7th local time. The interesting thing is, the ultra super surprise attack that nobody knew was coming and blah, blah, blah. Israel was totally taken off guard, and like every ounce of bullshit that could go into a story. Well, that attack didn't take place until 6:30 a.m. local time, October 7th. So how do you create a Wikipedia page for an event, a super surprise event nobody knew was coming, 8 minutes before it starts? Make it make sense, guys. Oh, what got debunked here? Nothing. The ceasefire. A ceasefire is bullshit. A ceasefire is to appease us. Israel's not going to stop killing people. That's not what they do. This is a genocide. Like, it's so funny to me how the J News keeps telling us, and Israel's not letting the aid trucks come into the areas that they just bombed the bejesus. Well, duh. They're trying to kill people. They're not trying to bomb them and waste all that energy and resources on them so then you come and give them fucking aid. They have the biggest murder boner in history. But the fact that the Wikipedia page is created 8 minutes before the event, like, I really like to focus on smoking guns, right? I don't want to throw a whole bunch of details at you. I just want to throw a couple of things at you so you can focus on them and hopefully you can debunk them. You know, how does anyone make a Facebook page or make a Wikipedia page 8 minutes before something happens? Well, that's not necessarily when they made the page. That was when the first edit was made to the page. I don't know when the page was created. But within, you know, I ended up reading the edits for the next like 3 hours, you know, for the next 3 hours in the narrative, right? And it was like there was like 5 or 6 accounts that were laying out the narrative for the next couple days within the first hour. And, you know, they immediately said shit like Hamas launched 5,000 rockets within the first 20 minutes. And it all happened so fast. That's why there's no footage of it. 5,000 rockets is 4 rockets per second, every second, for 20 fucking minutes. What? How is that possible? Like, what? How much infrastructure do you need? How many rocket launchers do you need to be able to launch 5,000 rockets in 20 minutes? You know, but they also claimed that Israel had killed 1,500 Hamas almost immediately. And when they say Hamas, they mean innocent Palestinians. They just ran around killing Palestinians, shooting them in the head and shit, shooting them. That's what they did. And all they have to do is say, oh, well, they were Hamas, and that makes it okay. Hamas doesn't exist. You know, Palestine doesn't have a government. They don't have a military. So they say things like those are militants to trick your brain into thinking it's okay. You know, they trick your brain into thinking militant, military. Okay, so they must be. So those aren't civilians. Those are militants. And they claim that that the Israelis killed 1,500 Hamas in Israel almost immediately. So when the reports come out later, and Israel is saying that around 1,100 people were killed in Israel, they're not necessarily lying. They're sort of implying, inferring, whatever, that it was Israel, that the Israelis that were killed, but if it was Israelis that were killed, they would fucking say so. You know, it would be like around 1,100 would be an exact number of the most beautiful, intelligent Israeli people ever were killed. That's the narrative that they would go with if it was real. And knowing that they're fond of having funerals within hours of things happening, and that it's sort of a requirement that when they die, they have to be in the ground within 72 hours of the death. You would think the Israel that wasn't experiencing any sort of, you know, situation. There was no, like, there was all sorts of videos from civilians showing like nothing's going on here. We're good to go here. The Iron Dome keeps us protected. You would think there would be tons of videos of funerals. There's not. The best you'll get is a list of names that Israel gave out. A list of names. That means it's true. There's a list of names. You guys just don't get it, man. All they do is lie. When you don't think Israel will lie to you, first of all, explain the funeral thing. You know, earlier in 2023, the Israelis, of course, claimed that 2 Hamas militants shot up a gas station and then fled. One of them was killed by the government. Another one was killed by a random settler. Either way, the two people that supposedly did the shooting were killed. Nobody knows their narrative. We only know what Israel tells us. Israel claimed 4 people were shot in that event. Now, this is going to require, a little bit of like intelligence on your end. But every time Israel claims losses, it's usually the amount of people that could be involved or killed in a tragic car accident. So when you say 4 people were killed, well, it was 2 young girls and it's girls under 25 or whatever. Another person in their 20s or 30s, and then an old man. So if the old man died of natural causes and the 2 girls and the other person were involved in a horrible car crash where those 3 were killed, then Israel could easily stage the event to say, oh, there was a shooting. There was a shooting. And because there's no investigation ever done, they completely control the narrative. Like with that, the 2 girls under 25, they were said to have been killed, investigated, had a funeral, and were buried within about 2 hours. And within about 2 hours, there was a rampage mob. They're called rampages, where Israeli settlers line up in a line, and as they walk, they just destroy everything they come across. They light fires, they beat people up, they break shit. It's called a rampage. And they were rampaging, and they do it with the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, behind them, either killing or arresting anyone that fights the rampage. This is just really well documented. You can go find it. It's fucking right there. So yet again, you have a situation where people are claimed to have been shot. And within 2 hours, they've had their funeral and are buried. How do you even begin to do that? What about high Shaline? See, again, I'm going to keep bringing up like news and big picture things. I know a lot of you want to talk about me. You're obsessed with me. You love me. You're all about me. I'm not all about me. I want to talk about the bigger picture. And I'm not stupid. I know what they want us to know. I don't sit here and claim to be, I found some secret information, yada, yada, yada. No. I get all of my information from where they want me to. Whatever source they want us to use, that's where I get my information from. By the way, if you're watching, like, share, sub, do that thing. That helps, Everybody says it because it helps. But there's a guy called H-A-I, Shaulain, Shaulain. And back during COVID, he was considered Israel's #1 thorn in the side, protester, anti-vaxxer, anti-masker, anti-green pass, he was a big problem for the Israeli government, right? One day, he's at a no-mask rally, so he's surrounded by other people without masks on. The police swoop in, arrest him, don't know why, and take him to the sterilized, cold jail where, all the cops have had their boosters and everything, I would assume. And the jail is immaculate, you'd think, especially if they're going to put J's in there. 2 days after being arrested, he's then taken to the hospital. 7 days after being taken to the hospital, he releases a statement saying, again, this is a guy who's in custody, is somehow releasing statements now on the web where he says, I am too sick to talk or respond. However, with a couple of weeks worth of prayer and good medicine, I should be back on my feet again. However, if I die, it's because the police poisoned me. And, that's that. Funny thing is, the next day he died. 8 days after being taken to the hospital, he must have had super COVID, because I've never heard of anybody being completely fine and then 8 days later they're dead from COVID. That doesn't seem to be the way it works. It just happens to be that the guy that was against masks and pokes and all that, that's the guy that died from super COVID. The only case. And the funny thing is, he was at a no mask rally. So you would think, all of his invisible germs that he was spewing out, all the COVID sauce he was spewing out all over the place, would have gotten other people sick with super COVID, and other people would have checked into the hospital and died 10 days later, at 10 days after the rally. Don't you think that, shouldn't that be how it works? That's what we're told, right? His funeral is the next day, of course. And his brother is blah, blah, blah. But the funny thing is, after his death, the guy that says the police fucking poisoned me, there's no investigation. And there's nobody demanding an investigation. He's the number one thorn in the side. He's the biggest protester that Israel has. And yet none of the people are stepping up and saying, hey, I mean, it made the news that he said the police poisoned him. Made the news. And yet, nope, no investigation. And the most interesting thing is, this number one protester guy, thorn in the side, blah, 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 had no social media footprint. You'd have thought that there would have been stories written about him. You'd have thought he'd have had a Facebook page or a Twitter page or anything. Nope. It's almost like he never fucking existed. It's almost like Israel was lying. Lying to push an agenda. And see, it's stuff like this where, like, I don't know. Like, to me, that seems like, holy shit, that's some smoking gun shit right there. You'd think that would be enough to get people to, at the very least, sort of question Israel's legitimacy. But nope, I'm the bad guy because I question it. When Bezalel Smotrich says Biden needs to mind his own business and shut his mouth because Israel is no longer a star on the U.S. flag, don't even worry about it. Those are just words. You would rather sit and watch a person telling of J Law and some invisible thing he's going to save you at chat. Get out of here. Right. I mean, think about it. Think about how stupid they have to be. This is, they're not debunking or say, they're just, have you ever seen this? Do you see this? I don't see this on anybody else's page. If there are trolls, they're usually addressing what the person's saying. They're not doing this. Why do they only do this? But this is the stupidity, right? I can read to you all about how Israel does all this shit, and because you're such a good little sheep, you fall in line. You say that I'm the bad guy because I know things. So now we're going to look at the Samson option. Right? Now, the Samson option is one of these wiki pages where you can't edit it. It's all locked up. The Samson option is Israel's deterrent strategy of massive retaliation with nuclear weapons as a last resort against the country whose military has invaded and or destroyed much of Israel. So this is one of those things where they've worded it so that they can easily just say things like, well, that country, those 3 guys, those 5 guys from that country were sent by the government. They're invading us. The country that's committing genocide right now. They're killing women and children at an alarming rate because they've already killed most of the men, or at least have them in prison. Only because they believe they're born superior. There's literally no fucking reason to do this. Even if October 7th was real. Even if they had lost around 1,100. It wouldn't justify 200,000 being killed. It wouldn't justify 2.3 million being displaced and their whole fucking way of life being destroyed. That's not how this works. But those are the people that are doing this and have been doing this for a long time. Like, October 7th wasn't the beginning of anything. It was the beginning of the final stages of the genocide that they've been bragging about doing. You know, Netanyahu and Bezalel Smotrich and Itmar Ben-Gvir and Avi Moaz, they ran on the platform that they were going to retake the West Bank. No way he sleeps more than 4 hours. Aww. These guys think I don't go to sleep at an early time. Aww. Aww. No, I'm old. Come on, the dude, you got to do better than that. You're here because you get paid to follow me around on social media, like my town felon snitch got paid to stand in my driveway every day. I don't know if it's you, because they're on here, and he's been here since before you. But maybe he did come with you. Whoever these fucking unknown, nobody profiles, these are bots. Why does anybody even engage with these fucking people? It is way more likely that these are bots than they are regular people who support genocide and pedophilia. Because that's what it comes down to. If you oppose me, then you must support pedophilia and the J conspiracy, the J control. Commentators have also employed the term to refer to situations where non-nuclear blah, blah, blah. The name is in reference to the biblical Israelite judge, Samson, who pushed apart the pillars of a Philistine temple to bring do you know how stupid that story is? Suddenly this dumb J is now strong enough to topple fucking granite marble pillars and come on. Deterrence doctrine. Although nuclear weapons are viewed as the ultimate guarantor of Israeli security as early as the 1960s, the country avoided building its military around them, instead pursuing absolute conventional superiority as to forestall a last resort nuclear engagement. So you know how they do that, right? So Israel, again, this is because I'm stupid. Remember, I'm stupid because I know these things. You're not stupid because you're talking shit and, ignorantly. Like, it would be difficult. I would imagine if I was in your shoes and I was trying to troll somebody that was so much smarter than me and I couldn't, like, they kept bringing up shit that I couldn't actually debunk or focus on. Like, that would bother me. That would absolutely bother me. But there's something, there's a piece of legislation called a Memorandum of Understanding. Think she's a J? There's something called a Memorandum of Understanding. And what these are bipartisan pieces of legislation that don't get voted on in the traditional sense and are like these lifelong sort of things. In one of the Memorandums of Understanding, says that Israel is to have the mightiest conventional military in the region. And in order to maintain that, anytime that superiority is threatened or offset, the Memorandum of Understanding is that the United States is to provide Israel with what it needs to become superior. So a great example of this are the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords are Trump's legacy. That's Trump's big legacy. In 20 years, blah, blah, blah. It's the Abraham Accords that'll be talked about the most. And what the Abraham Accords are something called normalization deals, right? Again, I can't really find what normalization deals are. I've tried. And they only seem to exist when Israel is involved. But what it comes down to is that Israel is trying to expand and wants its people. So like when the World Cup was in Qatar a couple of years ago, Qatar wasn't Israeli friendly. But the Israelis wanted to go watch World Cup. So Qatar signs a normalization deal. And again, you don't understand. Your president, your American president, whether it's Trump or it's Biden, normalization deals are the number one priority for the president. And basically, because Israel wants its people to be able to travel to whatever place they're talking about. We'll use Bahrain for this example. Because Israel wants its people to be able to travel to and from Bahrain. Because they want, most importantly, a guarantee that, I don't know, let's just say for some strange reason, they decide to genocide the Palestinians, right? Within the next couple of years, right? Because these were signed a few years ago. The normalization deal says that whatever country is signing it won't attack Israel, won't defend the Palestinians or anyone else they happen to attack, and will instead either stay neutral or help Israel. And for signing those deals, whatever country it is, we, the American taxpayer, foot the bill. So, like in the case of Bahrain, in order to get Bahrain to sign one of these deals, we had to give them F-35. I don't know the exact number, but let's say we had to give them 20 F-35 fighter jets. So they'll play nice with Israel. Well, because we gave Bahrain 20 of those F-35 fighter jets, we now have to give Israel 35 F-35 fighter jets to offset what was given to Bahrain because of the memorandum of understanding so that they could play nice. The one country that didn't sign the memorandum or the normalization deal was Saudi Arabia. And they didn't because one, they're like the richest nation in that land. And two, from what they said, they didn't approve of how Israel handles the Palestine situation, and they want a two-state solution. So there's really nothing that they need. So unless Israel is willing to sign do the two-state solution, Saudi Arabia won't sign. So when Trump failed to get Saudi Arabia to sign, Biden picked right up. And for most of 2023, Biden, especially Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and the Attorney General, Jake Sullivan, were over in Israel trying to negotiate these normalization deals with Saudi Arabia. Now, as far as war crimes go, Saudi Arabia and Israel are the big bads. There is nobody more guilty of war crimes than Saudi Arabia and Israel. So when you think that your American president, both of them, because you're all distracted by what they disagree on, I'm much more more concerned with what they agree on. Your American president, Trump, Biden, whoever it is, the number one priority is Israel. And so, again, we have to go back, because, again, I'm stupid and I know things, right? I know things, I know names, I know places, I know things. That makes me stupid. I don't know how many of you remember Adnan Khashoggi, but Adnan Khashoggi was a J reporter. And he was known as a real thorn in the side of the Saudi Arabian monarchy. And he would always, write stories and stuff exposing what Saudi Arabia does. Well, it was maybe 18 or something like that. Maybe it was 19, I can't remember. He went to go have a meeting at the Turkish consulate in wherever, at an embassy. I can't remember where it was. Maybe it was Saudi Arabia, but I'm not sure. But it was on neutral turf. And there's a video of him going into the place. And then hours later, there's a video of a guy dressed in his clothes that kind of looks like him, but has on different shoes, leaving. And almost immediately it becomes an international incident. His wife is like, where is he? Blah, blah, blah. Well, it was pretty clear right from the beginning, Saudi Arabia is who was behind his disappearance. And they just denied it up and down. And at one point, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram were all shut down. I don't remember if you guys remember that, but there was a couple of hours where all three were just inexplicably, they were shut down without explanation. Well, it turns out that Adnan Khashoggi was dismembered. Arms, legs, head cut off. And body pieces were put in barrels of acid and buried throughout the desert. Sorry, did you want me to? Buried throughout the desert. And a video of him being dismembered got uploaded. And that's why they had to shut the three down so they could scrub it. When asked about this American reporter, this dual Israeli citizen American reporter, who was clearly killed by the Saudi Arabians, because it all came out, your buddy Trump refused to do anything about it because he said he had a $2 billion weapons deal set up with Saudi Arabia and he didn't want to screw that up. Well, when Biden got into office, Saudi Arabia had already paid the money, but the weapons hadn't been manufactured yet and sent over. So apparently, the Biden administration froze the deal. Part of their offerings for the normalization deal, for signing the normalization deal with Israel, was that they would Biden would unfreeze that deal, give them the weapons they bought, which, again, they're so rich, $2 billion being lost was nothing to them. And even more so, Biden said that they were willing to give Saudi Arabia a civilian nuclear program. Because, they wouldn't be smart enough to weaponize it if it's actually a thing. They were going to give fucking, like the Islam that you're scared of is called Wahhabi Islam. It's like how there's Protestant and Lutheran and all that shit. Well, there's different sects of Islam. There are Islamic countries that have a woman head of state. They're more progressive than we are. But then there are places like Saudi Arabia where they're like, look how progressive we are. We let women drive as long as there's a man in the car and it's daytime. But we let women drive. This is the Islam that mutilates little girls. This is the Islam that throws gay guys off of fucking buildings and shit. This is that scary Islam. And your president is doing everything he can to work out a deal between Wahhabi Islam and fucking, ultimate supremacist Israel. Offering Saudi Arabia a civilian nuclear program that we foot the bill for. We pay for all of it. So not only do we give Israel that $3.8 billion a year, we also pay for all this shit every year. The Saudis still didn't sign, which is just them waiting. Like, I thought they were going to do it initially, where they were going to initially, have Saudi Arabia get involved, but they didn't need to. They were able to do the genocide they wanted to without there being any repercussions, and they didn't need to bring in the Saudi Arabia side of things yet. So I think they're just sort of waiting on that. The original, so that's how they have the military superiority that they have, because of shit like the memorandums of understanding and the Abraham Accords. This is where Israel gets all its power from. If you're watching, like, share, and sub. Oh, the Mormons are fucking awful. Are you crazy? As far as you crazy Christians go, the Mormons they're at the top of that fucking list. Bunch of pedos. There's literally a show, a TV show, at least it was. I don't think it still exists, but there's a TV show in the 2000 teens called Escaping Polygamy, where these girls, this group of reasonably attractive girls, had literally escaped from polygamy. And by doing so, they're threatened, they can't, their family, they're excommunicated, they're not allowed to talk to anybody. And the show is about them helping other people escape a cult in the United States. They film all the fucking horrible interactions and, how the more will bully people, will manipulate. It's a show. It's a fucking TV show. Understand that there's a reason why the Jays who produce that show give us that shit. They only make up 0.183% of the world's population. They couldn't have the control they do if it was based on physicality. They're weak little nothing trolls to begin with. Why do you think all they do is drop bombs on people from American-made planes? Because they're fucking cowards. They drop bombs on people and then they send their heavily armed and protected soldiers into the area so they can raid and kill anybody that's still around, and then take a lot of hostages while also taking the women's lingerie, the women's underwear, and either posing for them with pictures or putting them on and posing for pictures. You must know Charles Manson. Charles Manson is nothing. Do you know that Charles Manson never killed anybody? Do you understand that? He never killed anybody. And while you're stuck on people like Charles Manson, there are guys like Robert Bowers Jr. or John T. Earnest, who were the supposed shooters in the synagogue shootings that happened in 2018, exactly 6 months apart from each other. Nobody ever wants to interview those guys. Nobody ever talks about those guys. Nobody ever wants to hear their side of the story. Nobody wants to know what Grafton Thomas's side of the story is. Who? Yeah, Grafton Thomas. Go ahead, look it up. How many people you know named Grafton? He's the guy that supposedly attacked a Hanukkah celebration, a dinner, where he was, quote, stabbing people with a machete. And they tried to level every hate crime and everything. Like, this story is insane. This guy, this young, supposedly crazy black man, I mean, the narrative is that he was just at this rabbi's house, and it was connected to the synagogue. But he was at the rabbi's house one night. He comes in through the front door where they're having one of their Hanukkah celebrations, I guess, or something, some sort of dinner, and starts stabbing people with his machete. Apparently, they fight him off, and he then tries to go next door to the synagogue where they heard the commotion, so they were blocking the door. He then gets in his car and drives back to New Jersey or whatever. It was in Philly, but he was in New Jersey, where he was pulled over, where he still had the blood on his hand. Like, it's all crazy. And then they try to say it's all these, like always, it's hate crimes. They try to levy everything they can against him. And of course, it's like, if I was ever, under a trial, if there was ever a trial that I had to go in for something that had to do with Jays, whether I was getting accused of this, that, or the other, and I had a J judge, I would do everything I could to not have a J judge, because they don't do that. They don't separate themselves. Grafton Thomas was then, instead of being charged with his crimes, he's labeled crazy and gets taken to some mental home where he's never heard from again. I mean, every so often he'll come back up for trial. They're gonna see if he's fit for trial now. Nope, still not fit for trial. Back to the crazy home with him. And when somebody's in a crazy home, well, they can't be interviewed. And we'll still talk about people like Jack the Ripper from the 1800s. But nobody's interested in interviewing Robert Bowers Jr., the guy that shot up that synagogue, supposedly. No? Killed like 11 or 12 people. Some absolute bullshit fake story. And of course, because of this horrendous event that took place, well, they needed a new synagogue to be built, paid for by the government, which it was, because it was just too painful to go back to the old synagogue. I mean, when you just start looking into what they want you to know, I'm telling you, you don't need to follow like an Alex Jones or anything like that. Just look at what they want you to know. The narratives they give you about, building great fucking skyscrapers and churches and all these kinds of things, castles and shit, back in the 1800s, 1700s in some cases. They built that in a year, and there was a fire, and like it's all this obvious, really obvious narrative that we're being lied to, and that the Jays control it. If you really want life to be better for everyone, which is my goal, I want everyone to have a better life, which includes those Jays that are willing to put down that supremacy. Like my whole thing is about the belief. If you subscribe to the belief, you're a piece of shit. You need to go. But if you say, oh, fuck no, that's some supremacist bullshit, I want nothing to do with it, I wish my parents weren't such dickheads, like, you have all my respect, all my support. Of course, I never meet people like you because Jays aren't willing to give up the opportunity and the advancement and all that shit that comes from being a Jay. So that's why they all fucking just condone it. Like, I can't imagine associating myself. My whole identity is wrapped up in this thing that is committing genocide against innocent people. That is consistently found to be raping, not just children, but Hollywood starlets and shit like that. Because these are, Weinstein is so fucking ugly. Most of these Jays are so fucking ugly. They're never going to get, your Gwyneth Paltrow's, your Angelina Jolie's, your Rose McGowan's. They're never going to actually get those girls in any sort of reasonable situation. So they rape them. And they rape them with the idea of that's how they're going to get the career they want. And when they, you know why you stopped hearing from Gwyneth Paltrow? Because during Seven, when she was dating Brad Pitt, Weinstein tried to fuck with her. And Brad confronted him on it. And Brad was such a big star that Weinstein couldn't shut him down. But that's about when you stopped hearing from Gwyneth. Because she wouldn't play by the rules. But like I say, if that was my group, like if I was a Christian, the fact that the church keeps getting caught violating children, I'd be the first one at the front of the fucking protest, demanding that my church fix this fucking problem. What the fuck are they doing? What's going on here? Why is my church so okay with the violation of children? Seems like every single person I ever talk to, interview, whatever, and I ask them what their thoughts are about the pedo situation, every single person says we should kill them. So why don't we kill them? Why do we need to change the laws to begin with? Who set the laws like they are right now, especially in California where they have like the shortest statute of limitations, and you know it's the most difficult for a victim to successfully prosecute a J in a high position in California than anywhere else. Why? Yeah, look at all this shit. And there's nothing to be saying. Maybe you're falling for the conspiracy. The conspiracy is yeah, that's what it is. So never mind all of the evidence right in front of your fucking face. I'm falling for something. I'm falling for the thing that we're not supposed to talk about. The conspiracy is the one you're not supposed to talk about. It's like all the people that sit here and talk about the Illuminati, Freemasons, and all that shit. Really? There are Freemason lodges all over everywhere. Yes, anybody can be a Freemason on the first 3 levels. There are multiple levels up higher than that not even a lot of those people know about. And that's how you hide in the open. But just like the Illuminati and shit, they're not making fucking movies about national treasures. And if it's a secret, if it's some secret conspiracy that you're not allowed to talk, they wouldn't make movies about it. Let me ask you the last time you saw a J bad guy in a movie where he was openly J or openly Israeli, or like a lot of times J's play bad guys, no doubt. Even though it's not as much as you think. Usually they're the good guys. Or the side characters. But when was the last time you saw a movie where Israel was the bad guy? I'm telling you guys, if there's anything you do today, other than go get your free download at www.the-bilderberg-group.com, just put 0 in the payment box when it asks how much you want to pay. It's free. And then you share it with somebody. Other than doing that, you should watch this movie called Hollywoodism. Hollywoodism is them bragging. It is them bragging about controlling all of Hollywood, making a movie that if you say the same thing said in that movie, you're called anti-Semitic. Hey, let's fix that real quick. Because Jays think they own everything. So they think they own the term Semitic, but Semitic refers to all of the people in the region. Palestinians, Syrians, Lebanese, Yemeni, even North Africans like Egypt and shit. These are all Semitic. Black, white, brown, all Semitic people if they're from that region. Semitic region. Semitism means, by definition, a policy or predisposition, well, not a policy or predisposition favorable to Jays. That is supremacy. They won't say Jay supremacy, but they say the rules, the laws, the policies, and the preconceived, the way you're going into it, your predisposition, you're going into it thinking the Jays deserve favor. The rules say so, and your predisposition, your mind says so. Before you hear any details or anything, all you need to know is that they're Jays. So then the policy and your disposition should favor them. Now that's some crazy shit. That is some crazy shit. I find it so nuts, man. I find it crazy how stupid we are. My dumbass neighbor, he's all, I'm a veteran and I, blah, 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 proud American, yet is okay with all of this shit that happens with Israel. And it's not like you can go and be like, well, Israel helped us with this, and Israel had our back here, and Israel did this, and Israel did that. As a matter of fact, why do you think we give a shit about Ukraine so much? You know? Especially Kiev? Because they have one of the largest J populations in that region. And Kiev and Ukraine, they've been jump off points for lots of different shit. It's either World War I or II, there was a jump off point from Ukraine and specifically Kiev. Prior to the unprovoked invasion, prior to the unknown, completely unprovoked invasion from Russia into Ukraine, Israel had 3 of the biggest 747 or whatever the fuck the biggest passenger planes. They had 3 of them running nonstop from Kiev to Israel, Kiev to bringing in as many people as they wanted to. They have something called the law of return, and if you even have one grandparent that was a J, you don't even have to be practicing. But if you have a J grandparent, you can come to Israel and get all the good stuff. Get your check, get all that shit. Do you get that? Like, it's all bullshit. They were evacuating J's out of Kiev for 3 weeks prior to the totally unprovoked invasion. And they brought thousands and thousands of people into Israel. You haven't heard about any numbers problems, have you? Housing crises or anything. Why? Because who the fuck do you think they've been building all these settlements for? And if I say settlement, you probably think of like a tent and shit. No, these are mansions. These are compound mansions. They're a big mansion with a big piece of land. Those are what settlements are. Built and paid for by, well, us, but the government. Yes, I must be depressed. Oh. Here you have another dumb J trying to convince people of something because they can't argue anything I'm saying. The J's want you believing you're depressed. Why do you think that the psychiatry, the people that prescribe the medicine, the people that, produce the medicine and give the medicine, all that shit, why do you think they're all J's? They love that. One of their best weapons is convincing people that they're depressed. You're not depressed. I don't care who. I know that there are some people that are depressed. Yeah, sure. But for the most part, everybody that's been told they're depressed, here, take this drug,
so I can get the newest rips, because that's how that works. Your doctor doesn't give a shit about your health. He gives a shit about what the rep came in and promised him for prescribing this new medication from now on. Oh, we've got this new medication. He gets paid on every single one of those. But they have you believing you're depressed. So then you take, these terrible brown acid medications that it takes your body 3 weeks to 2 months to even get used to before it actually starts working. Oh, and if this pill you're taking for depression makes you want to kill yourself, don't stop taking it. Here, take this other pill on top of it. Okay, now let's adjust the dosages. Okay, so I guess this one isn't working. Well, here, we're just going to switch you from that one to this one. Even though we told you don't do a cold turkey thing, we told you it takes weeks for your body to get used to it. We're just going to switch it up. You should be okay. And while you're sitting here thinking you're depressed, you're not depressed. You're pissed off. You're angry. You see the world they tell you. You see the thing, the pie in the sky bullshit that you were told to believe as you grew up. And then you get to be this adult and you're like, hey, wait a minute. Pray to some dude that what? That's fucking stupid. That shit's not real. COVID comes around and the church isn't the bastion of hope for people. The church closes its doors on people. Right? Gosh, that's strange. I thought you guys were covered in the blood of Jesus. You'll be all right. This is, watching the 700 Club. These arrogant pieces of shit. Like, the fact that people fall for that is just crazy to me. You believe that Pat Robertson knew how to, and taught Gordon and taught whatever, Michelle or whatever fucking name is. Pat Robertson somehow knew how to hear people's prayers through a delayed television signal and then command Jesus, God, to fix the thing that he had already, his God plan was to make you die from whatever it is or whatever. Because Pat Robertson says, touch. God goes, oh, okay, let me fix that. What you do is you call into the 700 Club and they go, well, would you like to donate some money and have us pray for you? And of course, yeah, my name is Mildred and I am 87 years old. And I have liver cancer. And I have a bad knee. I have a bad knee that the doctor says they want to do surgery on it. But I don't want to do surgery. And they go, oh man, Mildred, that's too bad. And Mildred's like, thank you so much. I want to donate $1,000. And they're like, great, Mildred, thank you so much. Amazing, okay. Then within a week or two, suddenly Pat will be doing his voodoo shit. Mildred, I'm hearing about a Mildred from Wisconsin who has a bad knee. And I'm telling you, Mildred, God is going to fix that knee. You're not going to need surgery right now. Stand up right now and claim your miracle. And of course, there are probably a bunch of Mildreds with bad knees. And they all, oh, yes, God, Jesus. And who knows? Our minds are really powerful. For all we know, them believing that shit does something, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Most of the time, those people that don't get the surgery or stop taking the medication, it's negative for them. They have worse results because of it. I swear, it's so strange. I called. It was a few weeks ago. It wasn't like I just called and I donated $1,000. And then Pat commanded Jesus through his voodoo. Nobody fucking calls that shit out. The insane arrogance, just the arrogance in believing that there's a God's plan and that you can pray to God and have it change its mind. If you have cancer, it's because God gave you cancer. Right? That's how you believe it works. Cancer is life. God creates life. You know, it's a parasite that's feeding off of you. Which is a weird parasite because when you die, it dies. But you have that because God wanted you to have that. And your arrogant motherfucking ass believes that you can pray to God and be like, hey, God, change your mind. And God will be like, okay, you've given enough money because God doesn't answer prayers. What's God answer?
Tithing.
Tithings. God doesn't answer prayers. God answers tithings. Look it up. And if you absolutely, honestly believe in prayer, you think that God is listening to your fucking piece of shit prayers. Oh, gee, I sure hope I get the job at the store this weekend. I know there's probably a lot of other people that want this job, and you know, maybe even some need it more than I do, but I want it the most, God. Please give it to me. You think God's like, okay, cool. Gotcha, your job, you get it. Here, wait. I'm making the sun move. Hang on. Okay. There you go. And yet, for some reason, in the history of Goddom, in all of the stories you've ever heard, you never not once heard about the cop that was driving down the street when Jesus appeared sitting in the passenger seat next to him and said, stop the car, my son. Go kick in that door. And even though, you know, he's a good cop and all, I mean, that fucking Jesus just appeared and like, what the fuck? He's got stigmata. His hands are bleeding and shit now. You ever notice how you don't see stigmata anymore? Now that we have cell phones? Weird how you don't see. You would think now that everybody has cell phones, there'd be a lot more cases of stigmata. No. But that cop's never kicked in the door and busted an unknown pedo ring, saving 10, 20 children from whatever. Never not once in the history of that has God appeared to somebody to help them bust a pedo ring. And yet, he appears to show you, you know, to make sure you get your job. Oh, I lost a bracelet. And then God showed me the way to it. I found it right where it was. God showed me the way. My favorite is when you see, like I saw this video where this man was like, guess what color he was? This man was all like crying like, oh, look. And he had shown up to the accident where his daughter's car had completely flipped over and the guardrail went through the passenger side. Would have totally killed her, you know. And he's like, oh my God, look at how great the glory of God is. Oh, it's so great. My daughter was in this terrible accident and walked away from it unharmed. And he walks up right in her face and she's looking at him like, fuck, Dad. I don't want my accident to be broadcast. What the fuck are you doing? But he's like, look at my beautiful daughter. She's totally okay because God is good. And it's like, well, if God's so good, why didn't he just prevent the accident to begin with? Now, she is going to be all fucked up from that accident. I don't care what you say. If you're in an accident where the guardrail goes through the passenger side and, you know, that would have killed you, that's going to create some PTSD. Your insurance is going to go up because no matter what, if you don't have to call the cops and don't have to involve the insurance, don't. Because even if you're the victim, your insurance will still go up. You have to buy a new car, pay for whatever road damages are done. Why would God let that happen? Or the devil did that, but God stepped in at the last second to save the daughter. Like, You know how stupid that shit is? You know, and the only reason you believe that shit is because the Jays tell you to. You ever wonder why the cardinals and the highest ranking clergy always have on yarmulkes? Why do they wear those red yarmulkes? If they're not fucking Jays, then why do they wear that dumb Jay hat? It's not like it's practical in any way. It's so impractical that you have to use barrettes to like stick it to your head. Think about how awful these people are. Apparently, there are several of them on here talking shit, saying really awful things and all that. Instead of defending their cult, instead of telling me what I'm wrong about, they're acting like the childish cowards that they are and just saying stupid shit. Why, if you want to talk about other things, go find other feeds. I highly suggest you go watch other people. Because I'm only going to talk about this. Until we fix this, until we cut the head off the monster, that's all I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about, I'll mention the tentacles and shit. And I talk about the tentacles all the time, but when you override the tentacles, or when you cut off the tentacle, it just grows back. If you can even cut it off. So why would we keep cutting off the tentacles and they grow back, sometimes two in the same place, instead of just cutting off the head of the monster? Every single thing you're going to bring up will go back to them. If I can convince you that, if I have to convince you, but if I can convince you that they're spraying the shit out of the sky, clearly that's not what planes do. You go to air shows just so you can see planes leave streaks in the sky. And yet when you see it in your everyday life, and it's not all the planes, it's just some of the planes. Here in Michigan, here where I am in Michigan, about 10 miles directly north of Detroit Metro Airport, and about 40 miles southeast, or I'm southwest of Selfridge Air Force Base. Well, I'd say about 95% of the chemtrails go west to east. They're not coming to and from the airport, clearly. They usually come from the west and go to the east, meaning they go out north or south of here, and then on their return trip, they go back east. And they all basically head towards Selfridge Air Force Base. If they're not going to Selfridge, then they're all going to Canada? Why would they be going to Canada? Why would they be going into the international airspace? A lot of days it starts at around 2:30, just before the kids get out of school. But at the end of the day, if I have to convince you that something's going on, once you realize that something's going on, you just have to reset. Because your first question, once you go, okay, they are spraying us, the next obvious question is, who are they? Who is allowing this to take place? Who's funding it? Who's in control of this whole thing? If you're finally, again, not a single one of us would let our kids go do anything Hollywood without us standing right there to make sure they're okay. But once you finally go, okay, there is a Hollywood pedo thing, your immediate response is going to be, okay, so who is in charge of it? Who lets it happen? Who writes the laws that let it happen? Who controls the police and shit like that to let it happen? Once you finally realize how horrible the pokes are, and you finally say, okay, yeah, that's something worth talking about, the first question is immediately going to be, who is behind all of that? Who makes all the money? Who's in charge of distribution? Who writes the laws and shit? Like, it's the same questions over and over again. It doesn't matter what your conspiracy is. The whole Tartaria thing. We only know what they let us know. Who lets us know? Who hid all that shit from us? Who's hiding it from us to this day? There's a genocide happening right now. Who is committing the genocide? Who is in control of the media machine that keeps reporting it like Israel's the victim? You know, who controls our government that, you know, we're always the big bad, like, protectors. Why aren't we protecting the Palestinians? It will always come back to the same fucking nonsense, man. It's always going to come back to the who. The who is behind it. Oh, the band? No. And that who is always the same. You know, when you look up BlackRock, who are all the executives? All J's. When you look up, like this guy I was watching this video about how there's multiple versions of Epstein. They have these islands. How do you own an island? Where do you buy it from? And something I've wondered now for a while, and I never hear people talking about it. Why don't pirates attack these islands? I mean, they can't have fucking that great a security. I mean, will you have a military, your own military on the island? You would think places like Epstein Island would be a fucking target for pirates. Johnny Depp's island, whoever island, Seville Island, whatever. You would think, why don't these pirates just go attack these islands and steal whatever riches they have and kidnap the superstar? Nope. Do you guys understand that, like, Epstein is just Maxwell 2.0? Do you guys understand that Epstein was just the patsy? Maxwell was the boss. Maxwell was the handler. And they're both Israeli operatives. Do you guys know who Robert Maxwell was? Ghislaine Maxwell's dad is named Robert Maxwell. Well, was named Robert Maxwell. And literally, if it weren't for Robert Maxwell, Israel wouldn't exist. They would have lost. In 1967, it was Maxwell that was smuggling in all of the airplane materials to give Israel the air superiority they needed to be able to win the slaughter. They would have lost otherwise. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad is responsible for Israel's existence. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was a Hungarian J, or Yugoslavian J, who lived in the J ghettos and was so poor that him and his sister had to share shoes, and all of his family was killed in the Holocaust, all of them. So if you want to go back and look, you can't interview him. They were all killed in the Holocaust. And somehow, this really tenacious guy who had like 4 or 5 different identities throughout his life just somehow became one of the biggest media moguls in the UK and Britain as a British citizen. And then when he got exposed as being this, he was also known to sell. He sold a right now we have something called we have a Pegasus software. It's a computer program that Israel sells to all the governments around the world, which allow the governments to access your cell phone, whether it's on or not, and go through your shit and turn it on, do whatever they need to do. That's the Pegasus software. That also gives Israel a backdoor into everything too. Israel doesn't sell stuff or doesn't create stuff without that backdoor. And a great example is Robert Maxwell sold a bunch of software to Americans at the time that did the same thing, allowed Israel access into our computer network. And they never got rid of them, right? Robert Maxwell was said to be worth $500 million. Guess how much Epstein was said to be worth? Epstein was just an Israeli operative. And that's what it all was about. That's why the Andrew thing got shut down. Remember Virginia Giuffre, who was the only girl? For some reason, there was all these victims, but only Virginia Giuffre was the one that was gonna make the money. And she swore up and down she wasn't gonna take the money. She wasn't gonna take the money. And then suddenly, she got 16 million pounds and disappeared. The very next day, after the Andrew trial was nicely wrapped up, they lifted the mask restrictions. Across the country, all the governors and everything like that just woke up that day and was like, hey, you know what? We should lift mask restrictions. Nothing's changed. Nothing's happened. It's all about Israel. It's always been about Israel. Everything that has to do with Trump is about Israel. Who's Trump again, sweetheart?
Best friend Israel has ever known.
The greatest friend Israel and the Israeli people have ever known, according to Netanyahu. He's converted. They just don't talk about it. I just don't understand how people can, like, we all know the Epstein story. Do you know how Epstein was said to have killed himself? He was said to have wrapped a sheet around his neck, tied the sheet to the leg of his bed, got down on his knees and leaned forward until he hung himself. That's what they say happened. Do you know how impossible that is to do? And it just so happened that the cameras were shut down, and it just so happened that the guards fell asleep, and it just so happened, and it just so happened, and it just so happened the day before that, 3 guys came in, and Epstein signed over all of his shit to them. And guess who made it all disappear? Your buddy Trump. Your buddy Trump. At this point, I always have to point it out. Look at the comments, people. Who in their right fucking mind hears about all this Epstein stuff and all that and still wants to fight? Oh, I don't like you. You're talking about Epstein. Who the fuck is going to do that? You could not like me all you want. Don't you think when it comes to the Epstein thing, you'd be like, well, you know what? That part, yeah, we can work together on that one. Or do you believe that Prince Andrew didn't sweat back then? That was what he told the journalist. who then didn't go, that's fucking bullshit. What are you talking about? You didn't sweat. There are pictures of you all sweaty from back then. What are you talking about? Multiple pictures show you all sweaty. And that's not something. You don't get shot at and it affects your psychology so much that you stop sweating, that your body stops doing what it needs to do to perspire to get rid of the heat. Yeah, that makes sense there, Andy. But of course, the chosen reporter let it slide. That would have been the end of the interview for me. If I was the reporter, I would have just stuck with that and kept grilling him to the point where he got up and walked away. But see, you guys don't remember that in 2018, we were told that we were supposed to run out and get vaxxed for the measles because the measles was going to kill everybody. Even though the measles doesn't kill anybody. You know, the measles kills people that live in bubbles and get sick. You know, if they get sick with anything, they die. Well, then, yeah, then measles might kill you. But everyone else, all of our relatives, you know, old country, old, you know, the people from my generation and older, they say things like, wait, what are you talking about? I had measles and German measles as a kid. Nobody died. They tried to get us to all vax for that. They were also using vape, remember? They were saying that vape was causing popcorn lung because suddenly, for some unknown reason, manufacturers started putting vitamin E into the vapes. Because that just makes total sense. You're going to put vitamin E into your vapes as oil for... It's never been that way before, but suddenly you're just going to start doing it. No, oh, that's bad. Do you guys remember the J kid here in Michigan that they said needed a double lung transplant because he had been vaping and got the popcorn lung? He was a J. And somehow he bypassed all those people on the waiting list. Bypassed all those people on the waiting list to get the double lung transplant. Got the lung transplant. And when he was seen vaping and out partying and shit, after the fact, the news was like, oh yeah, we're going to interview him and his him and his mother about the fact that he has a twin brother, but his twin brother didn't want to be on TV for a minute. He has a twin brother that if anybody sees this same kid out vaping and partying and shit, it's not him, it's his twin brother. He's getting a double lung transplant at the University of Michigan. Remember that shit? At the same time, again, you're told that you need to run out and get your measles shot because it's the most important thing. And the thing was, there was like 1,200 cases of measles. Well, almost 900 of those cases were in these 2J neighborhoods in this small the same neighborhoods where everything seems to happen, where the Grafton Thomas thing happens, where the synagogue shooting happens, blah, blah, blah. These same J neighborhoods had this overwhelming spike in measles. Does Trump go, oh, this is the measles thing, this is the Israel thing, and then shut off all flights coming in and out of Israel? No.
Jewish virus.
The J virus. No, nobody brings up the fact that it's the J's. And then we were all supposed to be concerned with a dead guy, Michael Jackson, because of the Neverland Ranch thing. And then that just disappeared in place of Epstein.
Whatever happened? Did they find his caretaker or whatever negligent in giving him the wrong drugs and poisoning him?
Of course not.
Nothing ever happened at all.
I'm sure not. Yeah, I need some benzos because I'm clearly like super high anxiety and I'm super high energy.
He's got so little anxiety that any time in his life he has taken a benzo, it puts him right to sleep.
Yeah, I pass out within like 15 minutes and I pass out hard. Benzos are reset buttons for me. If I take a...
Xanax do the same thing?
Oh
to
my
you?
God.
Does it?
Insane.
Does it feel the same as the value?
I have no fucking idea.
It's been so many years.
It's been so many years, but it's also like it's a short trip. You know? I'm asleep soon.
That's so funny how
Klonopins, all that shit.
all that shit just does
Nothing.
and yet the Xanax makes me fucking feel like I'm drunk as fuck.
Yeah, it does that to me too, but I
And
pass
the
out.
Valium doesn't. It's so weird.
But sorry, that shit just, no. I don't need their fucking fake bullshit drugs. Sorry. I'll stick with my natural plants, thanks.
Did you hear that Elon Musk's rocket blew up? It went to go up and it fucking blew up.
I mean, they're just replaying the same narrative. You guys remember when the SpaceX rocket blew up right at the beginning of the Trump thing? I mean, it's the same fucking, they're going to the same playbook. No. Yeah, no, they did have, remember, the SpaceX rocket blew up and somehow the two pilots fell to the earth and they were taken out and they were fine and they were like on the next rocket up a week or two later. I mean, just such stupid shit. It's just such stupid shit. But they literally have to. They have to go to the same playbook because, they trained Trump on that first playbook. And that's he's really, really a stupid person. It's the best evidence of how stupid Trump is, at least in a while, is before the debate with Kamala, he kept saying, "Oh, I want 3 debates, and she's too scared. She's just a woman. She can't handle 3 debates." And Kamala kept saying, "No, I just need 1. I'll be fine with 1." And Trump was like, "No, we need to do 3. She's too scared. She's too scared." Whether you watch it or not, whether you're whatever side you're on, it doesn't matter. Just look at the outcome. After the first debate, or after the debate, they immediately asked Kamala, "When do you want to do the second one?" She was like, "Anytime. I don't care. I only needed the 1, but you guys saw what happened. But I'm willing to do another one anytime." When they asked Trump the same question, he was like, "We're not going to do any more debates." If he won, if he even looked good at the debate, why wouldn't he want to do more? How come nobody talks about Trump basically disappearing from like 2022 to 2023? Where do you think he went? We're talking about someone so famous, he can't go anywhere without being seen and pictures taken and blah, blah, blah. Where was he? We heard nothing about Trump for like over a year. What do you think was happening? They were training him. They were trying to program this old dumb bastard. But he's so fucking stupid that they just have to go with the same, like they had to not use Biden again. They had to bring in a more qualified woman because Trump already proved, well, he didn't prove he could beat a more qualified woman. We accepted that he could beat a more qualified woman. Even though Trump lost the first election by 2.7 million votes, and then that Jay Swamp that he said he was gonna drain, that Jay Swamp is who put him in anyway. 2.7 million votes, and Hillary was going to be the first female president ever. She would have gone down in history, for all of history, as the first female president of the United States. She won by 2.7 million fucking votes. That's so many more people. And yet, for the third time in modern history, the first 2 being George Bush Jr., both times, the swamp, the Electoral College, thought that we didn't make the right decision, so they put their guy in instead. And Hillary, unlike Trump, who lost in 2020 and made a big deal about it, blah, 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 this, that, and the other, Hillary won and then was told that she lost anyway and was like, "All right, see ya, deuces. I'm out." Haven't seen much of her since. Trump's only competed with women. I mean, Trump's only appeal is to racist, sexist, homophobic, insecure white men. And stupid people of color, I guess. I don't ever seem to meet any. I hear about them, but I never seem to meet any. But that's who Trump appeals to. If you ask anyone, why are you voting for Trump? They're going to say the border's racist. The economy, stupid. And the grocery prices, stupid. Again, because you think that Biden and Kamala are sitting there with their list of grocery prices. All right, what are we charging for Ritz crackers now? They were $2.39. Well, fuck it. Let's make them $4.39. Fuck those people. Okay, what about Oreo cookies? What are we charging for them? Raise it by $1. You're dumb enough to think that the president sits at his desk and he'll be like, Betty, can you bring in my the budget numbers for the day so I can crunch the budget real quick? Yes, Mr. President. And she brings in his stack of papers and he reads through them with his little adding machine. By the end, he checks it. Okay, budget's balanced out for the day. All right, Betty, can you bring me the foreign policy stuff? Yes, Mr. President. Do you really think the president does a job you couldn't do? I mean, they don't even seemingly have to remember lines anymore. All they have to do is read a fucking prompter. Get to work whenever the fuck you want, have a driver. I mean, again, I don't even know what work they do. They seemingly, like, Congress and all that shit, they go on recess all the time. They supposedly work for a week or two, and then they have like 3 weeks of recess. How many of you get recess from your job? It's all a big fucking stupid show. It's a play. And who do we know runs the plays and controls the media and all that? The Jays. Like, they're not going to control the most important play of them all. The most important, the most powerful presentation of them all. The president is the only election, the only thing where votes and shit, where the person that gets the most votes doesn't automatically win. Think about how crazy that is. It's all bullshit. And if you look at each president and you look at, if you put J's in Obama administration, J's in Clinton administration, J's in Bush administration, J's in Trump administration, you're going to see that every aspect of who they are is controlled by J's. Speech writer, clothes picker, food picker, itinerary guy, like everyone around them that controls the presentation that we get is a J or married to a J. Like, I feel like I'm just showing you guys just evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence. And one of the biggest pieces of evidence that I can show you is my feed, right? Where you see that if people could, say something negative or bad or whatever, they absolutely would. It's all right here, right in front of us. They've tricked you into thinking the conspiracy is some big spiritual bullshit thing that you can't comprehend and can't wrap your head around, this, that, and the other, and it's supernatural, and it's devil worshiping and demons and all this crazy shit. Instead of it just being, there's one group of people, they only make up a small 1.183% of the world's population, and they control it all, and they do everything they can to maintain that control. Other than that bullshit, like what? It's not that complicated. It's all right in front of you. Just look at it. If they could debunk it, they would. If there was any way you could possibly prove me wrong about anything, they would be doing it. Team Jorge is alive and well, and they're just one of many Israeli Black Ops organizations. The one thing you'll see is like multiple reports on how Facebook is so proud of themselves because, you know, they found out that there were hundreds of bot farm accounts from the Philippines. Hundreds. They removed hundreds of accounts. And yet, Team Jorge alone has 30,000 to 40,000 back in 2022. Think about that. You never hear Facebook talking about eliminating any sort of Israeli fake accounts or bot farms or anything like that. Why not? Why not? Good old Zuckerberg. Shit. That was Gordon. Walking to Jessica's. Maybe that's a half day. He's over there now knocking on Jessica's door.
I heard you though.
No, he didn't. Well, he might have heard me out the window.
Yeah, you did.
Well, I didn't see him. I didn't see him until I was coming down, and then he was already gone. Anyway, I'm gonna bounce. Go get your free download. www.the-bilderberg.group.com. It's free download. It's free. And it's not the standard shit you fed. I guarantee. You know what? I always call it fourth album syndrome. Third album syndrome. And I base it on Led Zeppelin 3. When Led Zeppelin 3 dropped, because people had these expectations of this wall of sound coming at them. Huh?
Yeah, go get the kids.
I know. This wall of sound coming at them. And they heard this country album by Led Zeppelin. They were pissed. And then, you know, weeks later, be at a friend's house and, what's that on the radio? Oh, that's that new Zeppelin. You haven't heard that? And they're like, oh, shit. Maybe it's better than I thought it was. I just had expectations beforehand. And that's the same thing with our shit. If you go into it with any sort of expectations, you might be disappointed because it's not going to fit what you think it's going to be. If you go into it looking for rap, it's not going to be rap. You go into it looking for rock, it's not going to be rock. But if you go into it thinking, man, I'm sick of everything I'm given, I truly want something different and unique, something that makes me think and blah, 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 go get your free download. We're also going to put a link to the Facebook page in the description and a link to the movie Hollywoodism, because you need to go see Hollywoodism. It answers all of your questions. It is more smoking gun than it's as much smoking gun as Team Jorge, as much smoking gun as Samson Option. Go check those things out. Everyone have a great day. You pedophiles, kill yourself.